Hey, I'm Scott at ediblemusic.com. Which one of these music samples do you prefer, between one or two? Okay, that's the first one. Here's the second one. Now, I don't want you to think too hard about this either, just intuitively, which one do you prefer? I'll play them again next to each other, between the first one or the second one. There might be a good reason why you would choose one over the other, but there are actually two different kinds of science to think about when we're talking about panning. The first is audio engineering science, which has designed for us that when you have a stereo channel with information on the right and the left side, when you're panning to the left, all you're really doing is turning down the information on the right, and the effect is that it makes the source sound as though it's coming more from the left. Conversely, when you have a stereo channel and you pan to the right, you're turning down the left side, which allows the source to sound more as though it's coming from the right side. Engineering science is very cool and it explains to us how it works, but it doesn't explain how you might choose where to pan different parts of your mix and why you might choose to do so. But a different kind of science can actually help you do that. And that's neuroscience. I've been thinking lately about an interview I watched with Susan Rogers, who's drawn on research about how our brains respond to sounds. And what she says here is that we have these audio cortices above our ears, and when a sound comes in to the right, it switches, so we process it with our left cortice, and when we hear from the left, it processes on the right cortice. Here's what she has to say.
Well, this is why the left ear, right ear, and the hemispheric specialization, left hemisphere, right hemisphere, and what they're each specialized for affects panning. Because if something's panned hard right, you're going to be processing it more as information. Whereas if something is panned hard left, you'll be processing it more in terms of its intonation, its emotion that's in there. You swap the panning, and your impression of that record is going to change.
So in most cases, our right ear tends more to process information, whereas our left ear tends more to process things like tonality, harmonics, musicality. And that can have an impact on your choice of panning.
I know Prince taught me about the hi-hat, where the hi-hat always had to be and where the rhythm guitar always had to be. And I know that personally, and when I'm mixing, I like panning things so that I'm getting the elements that I'm listening to the most, the elements that are rewarding me the most in a record. I'm going to pan those left. I'm going to pan them left. That comes in the left ear, and it's processed musically over here in the right. So for most listeners, music is processed in the right and speech on the left. So the things that I love musically the most, I'm going to tend to pan left. But if that guitar soloist is talking to you with that guitar, talking to you with that guitar, put it slightly right. Put it slightly right. Let it go to the speech area of your brain. Let it be heard as someone talking to you. Those things do matter.
Now, because of these distinctions between the ways that our ears prioritize sounds, you can think about panning that way and position more informational sounds, things like a hi-hat or shakers, things that don't really have melodic content to them, but maybe they're more percussive, they're more transient focused and informational focused. You might position those to the right, whereas if you have sounds that are more harmonic or melodic, more tonal sounds, you might position those a little more to the left. The thing about this is And it's really interesting, but it depends also on the science of lateralization, or the ways that we might have a dominant side, such as right handed or left handed people. A right handed person will then have the corresponding right ear prioritization on information, whereas a left handed person might have that priority in their left ear, or they might be balanced quite differently. So when I come back to that sample that I showed you earlier, if you are right-handed, then you probably chose sample 1. If you're left-handed, then you might have chose sample 2. Am I right?